How would you like to be a 19-year-old truck driver fresh out of high school in Vietnam in 1967, driving down an unpaved road nicknamed Ambush Alley? To make matters worse, there aren't any combat units with you, only other truck drivers. Doctrine calls for military police to provide convoy security, but there aren't enough MPs to go around, so you're usually on your own. When MPs did provide security, there are only 4 of them in 2 Jeeps, 1 Jeep in front of the convoy, 1 Jeep bringing up the rear. Each Jeep had a driver and 1 gunner, 1 M60 machine gun, no armor. That's all you got for convoy security, even if the convoy stretched out 10 miles along the road, as it sometimes did. Ambush Alley was part of Highway 19, which was the only road leading from the supply depot on the coast at Key On into the Central Highlands, where a lot of American combat units were fighting. Those combat units could not maintain the fight without the supplies delivered every day along Highway 19. The enemy knew this and decided to close the road. Things came to a head on September 2nd, 1967, when the enemy ambushed a 39-vehicle convoy, completely destroying 34 vehicles and killing a lot of Americans. What would you do if you were in charge of convoys and you had to send a convoy again right down that same road the next day and every day after that? The guy in charge was a colonel named Bellino. Bellino did what all good leaders do when they have to accomplish a task and are not given the tools needed. He improvised. He invented the gun truck. He ordered that a number of M35 2.5-ton cargo trucks be converted into gun trucks by putting extra machine guns in the bed of the truck, building a gun box around those machine guns, and going to a number of drivers and telling them, hey, guess what? You're not a driver anymore, you're a gunner. Now, easier said than done. The Army wasn't going to issue the additional machine guns that transportation companies needed. They had to find them on their own. They had to steal them, they had to trade whiskey for them, they had to scrounge them from downed helicopters, or they made them from spare parts. Early gun boxes were made out of wood and sandbags or scrap metal. Gun trucks never went through standard military testing or approval. Colonel Bellino risked his entire career with his unorthodox approach, but he saved a lot of lives and he kept Highway 19 open. Transportation companies built between 350 and 400 gun trucks during the Vietnam War. All except one of them were destroyed or left behind when the United States left Vietnam. The only surviving gun truck is named Eve of Destruction and can be seen at the Army Transportation Museum in Fort Eustis, Virginia. We're going to look at 3 reproduction gun trucks here at the museum. They're all very different. The first one we'll review is a 5-ton gun truck named Uncle Meat. Then we'll look at a 3/4-ton command gun truck named Daughter of Darkness, and we'll finish with an artillery gun truck named Rolling Thunder. Here's a photo of the original Uncle Meat in Vietnam. It was built on an M54 5-ton platform that could handle more weight in armor, guns, and ammunition than the earlier M35 2.5-ton platform. We have an email from an officer named Captain Joe McCarthy who ordered the conversion of Uncle Meat from a cargo truck to a gun truck in 1969. McCarthy said in his email that when he was assigned to the 523rd Transportation Company, it had only one functional gun truck, which, believe it or not, was Eve of Destruction. McCarthy ordered that Uncle Meat be built as a sister truck to Eve of Destruction. McCarthy named the truck Uncle Meat as a secret act of rebellion. Uncle Meat was the name of an album released in 1969 by the rock band The Mothers of Invention that McCarthy used to listen to while stoned. The Army never made the association and never objected to the name. Our Uncle Meat was built by a veteran named Logan Worth, who was a gunner on the original truck in Vietnam from 1970 to 71. Let's go through the details. First, the unit markings. Uncle Meat was part of the 8th Transportation Group, 39th Transportation Battalion, 523rd Transportation Company, truck number 201, when it operated on Highway 19. 8th Transportation Group painted its gun trucks black to intimidate the enemy. Beginning in 1969, they added a yellow stripe to the front of the hood to aid aerial identification of gun trucks. Captain Joe McCarthy saw a photograph of Uncle Meat as it was being built. He saw the lettering on the side of the truck, and he said to Logan Worth, "Don't ever change that lettering. That's exactly how it was done to show that it was a sister truck to Eve of Destruction." 3 of Logan Worth's friends were killed serving with him in Vietnam. He made sure that they were remembered forever by putting their names on the cab of his gun truck. Michael Hunter was killed driving a gun truck named Ace of Spades when the road gave way under the truck and it tumbled down a 100-foot embankment. Richard Fraser was killed just 4 days later as the gunner on a gun truck named Satan's Little Angel. Robert Thorne was killed 20 days later driving the same gun truck Fraser was killed in. The crew renamed the truck from Satan's Little Angel to Proud American in an unsuccessful attempt to change the luck of the gun truck. These three deaths were very personal to Worth. He was with Fraser and Thorne when they died and was lucky to come home himself. Logan wouldn't part with this gun truck while he was alive, and he wanted it preserved after his death. When the truck found its way to me, Logan Worth's surviving sister said that when Logan came home from Vietnam, he was 100% disabled, and that building this truck helped him heal. This is a special truck that we will preserve here forever at the National Museum of Military Vehicles. Let's detail the rest of the truck. Early gun trucks had glass windshields and unarmored cabs. Uncle Meat had ballistic glass windshields and a fully armored cab. Uncle Meat had double plates of armor set at an angle with a space in between to absorb blast for extra protection. Worth recreated the interior of the cab exactly like it was in Vietnam. Dave Rose was the driver. The driver had a special radial helmet. He had his own flak jacket. He had his own gas mask. He had a variety of rounds for his M79 grenade launcher, including smoke grenades to mark location for aerial support. Now let's go up into the gun box. When I stand in the bed of this gun truck, I'm surprised to find I'm actually overcome with emotion. This is a living museum. Imagine being a 19-year-old. You're living in a flak jacket. You're taking a gas mask everywhere you go. You're wearing your helmet everywhere you go. You're with two other guys, each with 50 caliber machine guns, a 50 caliber machine gun on each side and a twin 50 caliber machine gun at the rear. Logan Worth was the gunner on the twin 50s. The gun box is double steel armor with space in between to load with sandbags. Each gun has a canteen marked oil. The canteens aren't holding water, they're holding oil to lubricate the guns. There are 6 extra gun barrels in here. Imagine firing in the middle of an ambush, having your barrel overheat. You're going to have to swap out that barrel to stay in the fight. Think of all the ammunition it took to support 450 caliber machine guns. The entire bed of the truck is full of ammo cans. Uncle Meat carried 13,000 rounds of 50 caliber ammunition. There was another gun truck, I just want to touch on it briefly, named Maverick, that had even more guns than Uncle Meat did. At one point, Maverick had 4 M134 miniguns and 3 M60 machine guns. Can you imagine how much ammunition Maverick had to carry to support 4 M134 miniguns, each one firing 6,000 rounds a minute, in addition to having 6 gunners in the back of that truck? Think about how much the armor, that ammunition, and those gunners weighed. That truck was severely overloaded. I didn't even know how it could move. It certainly never would have passed military performance specifications, and that's characteristic of gun trucks in Vietnam. To talk a little bit more about what's here, in addition to the 450 caliber machine guns, what are you going to do if the enemy's too close to the truck for you to press the gun and fight at them? Well, you got to have additional weapons. They carried an M60 machine gun so that they could shoot down where they needed to depress. They had to have additional 7.62 ammunition for their M60 machine gun. They had their own radio connected to Dave Rose in the driver's seat, to the gunners back here in the cab, and to connect for air support. They had cold drink insulated container. They had rations. They had they're living in this thing day after day after day. They carried stretchers. They carried extra tires. They served as a service truck as well as a gun truck for the convoys that they deployed in. By January 1971, Uncle Meat had been transferred from the 8th Transportation Group providing convoy security on Highway 19 to another part of Vietnam further north providing transportation security on Highway 9 for Operation Dewey Canyon II. Operation Dewey Canyon II was the U.S. support effort for the South Vietnamese Army's incursion into Laos beginning in January 1971. Worth paid tribute to the officers he served with in Operation Dewey Canyon II when he rebuilt Uncle Meat. You see here Captain Don Votritter. Votritter was the commanding officer of the 523rd Transportation Company during Operation Dewey Canyon II. The three lieutenants whose names you see here were the platoon commanders for the 523rd Transportation Company. Lieutenant James Baird is still alive. He's 80 years old. He's a member of Congress representing a district in Indiana. Baird was wounded in action and lost his left arm in the same battle where Robert Thorne was killed in action. Lieutenant Fuller was Logan Worth's platoon commander. We'll hear more about Lieutenant Fuller when we talk about Daughter of Darkness in a minute. I wish Logan Worth were here today for us to shake his hand and make sure he knows how important his truck is to all of us in telling the story of 19 and 20-year-olds who put their lives in harm's way, some of whom lost their lives, some of whom lost limbs, serving on behalf of all of the rest of us at the request of the United States in truck companies and in gun trucks in Vietnam. Uncle Meat is the best reproduction gun truck in existence. We're going to drive it in our 4th of July parade, have as many people know about it as possible every single year. Daughter of Darkness was Lieutenant Fuller's command truck during Operation Dewey Canyon II. He named it after a Tom Jones hit song. It had an armored cab with ballistic glass. As an M37 3/4-ton truck, it couldn't bear the weight of a 5-ton truck, so it had less armor in the gun box and only 2 M60 machine guns for extra firepower. Daughter of Darkness and Uncle Meat served in the same transportation company during Operation Dewey Canyon II. Uncle Meat was truck number 201. Daughter of Darkness was truck number 200. Daughter of Darkness was right there with Uncle Meat in the 2 firefights where Specialist Thorne and Specialist Frazier were killed in action along Highway 9. Our Daughter of Darkness is a reproduction built by decorated Vietnam veteran Scott Davis. Although Scott was an intelligence specialist with a top secret security clearance, he's a self-described motorhead who did double duty as a gun truck driver after most United States troops had already left Vietnam. Scott's gun truck was assigned to protect his secret intelligence base at Phu Bai rather than provide convoy security. Uncle Meat was assigned to protect that same base after the 523rd Transportation Company stopped running convoys. Now let's look at our third gun truck named Rolling Thunder. Rolling Thunder has the markings of a field artillery gun truck instead of a transportation corps gun truck. 3rd Battalion, 16th Regiment, Americal Division, I Corps. What's going on? Well, we don't know who built Rolling Thunder and we don't have its history, but here's what we do know. The nickname for the 3rd Battalion of the 16th Artillery Regiment is Rolling Thunder. The Rolling Thunder Battalion was assigned to the Americal Division in I Corps in Vietnam during 1969 to 1970, as indicated on the truck. So these markings are historically accurate. United States Army Field Artillery had a total of 4 machine gun air defense batteries in Vietnam. Each battery had 4 2.5-ton trucks with M45 quad 50 caliber machine gun mounts like you see here. So again, it's historically correct to see an M45 quad machine gun mount on an artillery gun truck. The M45 quad 50 caliber machine gun mount entered combat in 1944 during World War II, and here it is still being used by the United States Army during the Vietnam War. It was operated by a 3-person crew, 1 gunner and 2 loaders. Each of the 4 guns could fire 500 rounds per minute, but each Tombstone ammunition can carried only 200 rounds, so the loaders really had their hands full. The good news for the loaders was that gunners would rarely, if ever, fire all 4 guns at the same time. They didn't want to overheat their gun barrels, and they didn't want to waste ammunition putting too many rounds on the same target. In addition to the M45 quad mount, Rolling Thunder has 3 more M250 caliber machine guns, 1 M60 machine gun, and an M134 minigun. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm guessing that whoever built Rolling Thunder added all these additional machine guns for dramatic effect rather than because this was how a 2.5-ton gun truck would actually be set up in Vietnam. I don't see how an M35 2.5-ton capacity truck could carry enough ammunition for not only the quad 50 caliber machine guns, but another 350 caliber machine guns and an M60, along with an M134 that fired 6,000 rounds a minute. That would just be way too much weight to fit into the gun truck, not to mention the weight of all of those gunners needed to operate all those guns. So I don't take this as historically correct. Artillery gun trucks were not part of the Army Transportation Corps. They were sometimes used to provide convoy security, but their main mission was to provide security for field artillery. We're pretty sure there was never a gun truck named Rolling Thunder in Vietnam. If we're right about this, that would explain why the cab is unarmored, why there isn't ballistic glass, why there's less detail. This was not an effort to reproduce a gun truck. Instead, it was used to tell a story about the boys in Company B, Rolling Thunder Battalion, 16th Artillery Regiment, just like it says on the side of the truck. That's all we know about Rolling Thunder. If you know more about its history, if you built this truck, or you know who did, or if you know more about the story behind Rolling Thunder, please tell us so we can document that story before those facts are lost to history.